The views and opinions expressed on Chris Black the Podcast are not those of the station, platform, or any of its affiliates. Should they be? Probably. But who knows? That's what makes America great anyway. Thanks a lot and enjoy the show.
Welcome, everybody, to Chris Black, the podcast. I am your host, Chris Black, and I want to welcome you to my little slice of heaven. This week, I come with the goods, and I mean, boy, do I come with the goods. I traveled far and wide to bring this back to you, but I did it, I made it, and I survived, and here we are. So, this week is all about our salute to Rick and Bubba and the golden ticket seats. Now, we had a phenomenal trip to Birmingham, and there was even a bonus trip in Birmingham after the Rick and Bubba Show. So stay tuned to learn more about my exciting trip. Man, I tell you what's a dream come true. But if you want to learn more about the show, swing by podpage.com/Chris Black to learn all there is about the show. But let's stop dilly-dallying and wasting time, and let's get started. Here we go. Hello and welcome back to everybody. This is Chris Black, the podcast. I'm your host, Chris Black, and hey, this is the podcast. It is just a few minutes past the top of the hour, and man, oh man, do I have the goods today. We are welcoming you to episode number 18. Who'd have thought we'd have made it this far? But here we are. So I'm super excited to be here today, and I tell you, I've got a story of epic proportions today. Before we get started, let's swing by the old podpage.com/Chris Black. That's podpage.com/Chris Black. There you can see anything pertaining to the show, archives, and ways that you can hear the podcast on various platforms. And you can also connect with me on social media. As if, 45 minutes a week's not enough, right? So let me tell you what I had going on Friday. Friday was a huge day for me. They say you should never meet your heroes. Well, I met 5 out of the 6 of mine. So here we go. Friday, I was the proud attendee of the Rick and Bubba Golden Ticket Seats. Now, if you don't know who Rick and Bubba is, they're the self-proclaimed 2 sexiest fat men on the radio. They've been on since 94. They're celebrating 24 and a half years of broadcasting. They have a phenomenal show. It's based out of Birmingham, and it's syndicated all over the country and on various platforms, podcasts, YouTube, etc. Phenomenal. If you ever get a chance, check out Rick and Bubba, spell out the word and, rickandbubba.com. You can see everything about the show. But I haven't listened to them for years. We've kind of watched them, grow up, and, they're turning into empty nesters now. It's a pretty cool setup. But I got to attend the Golden Ticket Seats. Now, I know what you're thinking. What are the Golden Ticket Seats? That sounds like some Willy Wonka foolishness. Well, it's better than Willy Wonka. It's where you get to go watch them produce their radio show live and in person. Like, what do you mean live and in person? They actually have a live studio audience of 8 participants on Fridays. Going forward, we'll see how this continues. But I was the lucky recipient of 2, count them 2, tickets for the Rick and Bubba Golden Ticket Seats. Now, how did I become the holder of these? It was fate. It was just, I prayed about it, and I was in the right place, right time. And I knew they were coming back, but they were doing the month of September, those Fridays, those 4 Fridays only. And I was out walking, and usually when I'm out, walking, I'm listening to, podcasts, music, things like that. Well, that day I happened to be trying to wrap up the old Rick and Bubba Show podcast, and they kept talking about it, and I was 2/3 of the way through my walk, and I just happened to go to the website, from my phone, and I punched it in, and they had 4 dates open. I couldn't believe it. So I picked the 23rd because the 23rd was, in fact, my 1-year milestone from surviving my heart attack. I had a heart attack September 23rd, 2021. This was the 1-year milestone for that. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. So now I was able to pick that particular date, and I was like, this is going to be awesome. So I think it was the following week, the first group, the grade 8 as they called them. That's what they call the 8 people that came to watch. And we had a I had an idea, like I know how it used to work, because they used to have it every day, and it was like 7 to 10 or whatever. Now I think it's 8 to 10, and I kind of listened to the first round of people show up, and then there were the next week they brought in some 8 more people, and they kind of changed up the show a little bit and did some different things with it. But I really wasn't sure what to expect, especially in the new studio. But I got more comfortable with it as I watched, Group 1 go through, Group 2 went through, and Group 2 was pretty was pretty slick. They actually got to spin the Wheel of Meat, which I thought was pretty cool. If you don't know what the Wheel of Meat is, the Wheel of Meat is where they have this big spinny wheel with lights, and it flashes and does its thing. And they have someone spin the wheel on the radio, and the callers call in and say, "Wow, what a wheel!" And magic ensues. And sometimes you get meat, or a prize of sorts, and then there are pitfalls, and so it's a pretty cool little deal. But anyway, so I was really excited. I was super stoked about going to see Rick and Bubba. And Bubba, the co-host of the duo, he's kind of been going through some health issues lately. He had a gallbladder removed, which kind of uncovered a spot on the liver they really weren't happy about. So I found out probably about a week or so before it was my turn to go. It was probably a little more than a week, that Bubba, in fact, was not going to be there when I went, because he had a medical procedure on that Wednesday. And, they were going through to figure out what was what. And I get it. I understand. And, it's not like, Bubba was chilling down in the Bahamas. You know what I mean? It's really, it was really serious, life or death kind of stuff. And I totally respect that, and really wish that would have, materialized in a different way, but it's all good. So, it really kind of puts that human touch when you have people who have the issues, like health issues and so forth. And, Bubba had stents before I did. So like I kind of, I saw what he was able to do after, he went through his procedure several years ago and got a couple stents, a heart cath, whatever. And, is always right with the world. And, so that gave me some things to look forward to. And, Bubba's a little older than I am, by a couple years, not a whole lot, but, but it's interesting when these people, or you hear them on the radio, so you feel like you kind of know them. And when they make announcements about their lives and things like that, you really kind of get personal quickly. I know that sounds really strange, but totally enjoyed the experience as far as, leading up. Could not wait. Didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew something, exciting was going to happen. It was kind of surreal. You think about these things, and of course, the day before, I'm getting all my work done. I was like, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to be out of town, And every now and then, like, yeah, I'm going to watch Rick and Bubba tomorrow. They're like, huh? What? I mean, and some people I know were like, that's pretty cool. And other people, not so much. But, I'm a podcaster of sorts myself. So, it's fascinating for me to take a field trip and kind of see what everybody else has got going on in their life. So I was really kind of digging the concept of going to this. So, Thursday night I got all my stuff done early, so I go to bed early. And I'm not a morning person, hate everything about the morning, hate getting up in the morning. But I knew I was going to have to get up stupid early. And my wife's like, what time should we leave? What time should we leave? I'm like, we'll leave a little before 6. And so that meant I had to get up at like 5:15. Of course, I had to get something to eat and do all the normal things I do and still leave in time. And I just, I hate getting up in the morning. But I was going to see Rick and Bubba, so it really didn't matter to me. I was fine doing that. And I was going to see Rick and the gang, I guess you could say. So the big day hits, and I get out my little, because I listen to him on the radio, my little app, and there's some technical difficulty. Like, really technical difficulty on the day that I'm rolling in here? Are you kidding me right now? So 5:15 in the morning, the kickoff hour, they've got some fun things going on. So I'll tell you more about that when we come back to Chris Black Podcast. It is 8 minutes past the top of the hour, and you are back with Chris Black, the podcast. And of course, I'm Chris Black. And just rounding out another segment, part 2, if you will, of my field trip to the Rick and Bubba Show in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. They actually have a pretty cool little spot there. So, log in, listen to the app. They got some technical difficulties going. Of course, we're still going. I mean, it doesn't make that big of a difference. So, it's cool to listen to these folks in the morning, and know that within, a couple of hours, I'm going to be in the studio, hanging out, watching the fun unfold and all that good stuff. So, of course, I'm anticipating, fun and exciting day, which it was. And, we had a blast. An absolute blast. Just preparing and being excited and really not knowing what to expect. So, for me, the anticipation's been building up. I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now. And, wasn't really sure what to expect, but I was pretty excited about things. And, I decided that morning, made an audible last-minute call and said, all right, I'm wearing my Gamecocks, dad shirt since I got a son that goes to the Gamecocks. And Hope wore her Tribe Pride shirt, for the Wetumpka Indians. So we were well represented from our local, affiliates here. And cool thing about the guys in the show is they all have an affiliation or come from the JSU family or something to that effect. So they're very familiar with JSU. We'll just leave it at that. So anyway, we get ready, and of course I left a little later than I wanted to, but it was all good. Punched the information in, and it was a little chilly out. I say chilly, it was actually a nice breeze, and we get in the car and we start heading on up to Birmingham. And buddy, it was we went the back way and jumped on and Clanton, got on the interstate. We're traveling on 65, and traffic wasn't too bad. And the areas you're like, oh, this is gonna be awful. Really wasn't that bad, if I'm being honest with you. So we all hoofing on up. I think it was exit 246 is where we got off. And man, we start kind of bobbing and weaving to the neighborhoods. And I think we passed every school on that street in the area. Period. Getting to where we were going. And the direction said, X amount of, traffic lights and this and that. I'm like, wow. Well, 8 miles came and went. It wasn't too bad. I really was surprised that, it clicked by pretty fast. But we get there, and, of course, we turn in the parking lot where we were told to turn in. And you see the big old, cartoon faces smiling at you, Rick and Bubba. There's the show. There's the entrance. So we pull off to the side of the building, and we see there's other people that were coming in, and they're making their way to the door. We've never done this before. Kind of find out the people that were there had been there before, and they were some were from Tennessee, I believe, and I heard them mention the South Alabama, Florida area, something like that. But they've been here before and they've done it before, and so I really didn't know what to expect. And for me personally, I was just excited to be there. So we're standing out in the hall, and you could hear little nuggets through the walls, and you knew it's showtime. And there's a light in the says on air, in the hallway, and of course that thing lit up, and you knew it was live. And if you kicked in the door of the studio, then you'd be live. It was a really weird thing knowing that. So you kind of hear the grumbles on the other side of the door, and they're having a blast. And of course, we've listened to the show all the way up, to Birmingham, and the problem is solved, the issue's been resolved, crisis averted, all that good stuff with the original issue. And it had something to do with the mics of some sort. I don't really remember. But I was like, that's pretty neat. So, crisis averted, we, standing there in the hallway, and now we're waiting in anticipation. I'm so excited, I can't stand it. I was the only guy there, by the way, the only male that was visiting. And so the intern comes out with the little iPad on a stand, and I need everybody to sign in real quick and do your thing. And so that's, of course, what we did. And I filled up my little paperwork, and, I was official. And I was like, all right, we'll come get you at the start of the 8 o'clock hour. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm waiting and waiting. The sign goes off, and it's time. And let me tell you, these guys have got it figured out. You're walking in, it's gripping and grinning all day long. It's just a ton of fun. As soon as you walk in, there's a lot of energy. It's the VIP treatment. It's, hey, let me show you around. This is the golden ticket seats areas. Pick out your seat wherever you want to be. And of course, I picked Big Boy. I want to sit by Big Boy. He's a staple now, and I thought that'd be really neat. I had a pretty good vantage point of everything sitting in that particular area, and it's a lot to take in, but it's not. It's the studio's like an open room. It's pretty slick, and then there's 2 rooms that are adjacent to it that have got glass in, like a glass window kind of a deal, and one of it's for TV production for the YouTube and Blaze TV and all that good stuff, and then the other room is for like call screening and so forth. And they have a restricted area that you're not allowed to go back into. So the studio tour is pretty much what you see is what you get. They got some lighting in there, and it's pretty impressive the way it shows on television. I say television, I don't know why I keep saying it, but on YouTube it's pretty impressive. Because it's kind of, you put the visual component together with the radio component, and they do a radio show that just happens to have a video component. It's pretty neat. So, kind of walked around and shook everybody's hand on the way in and got to meet everybody. And they're super gracious. I mean, just real down to earth people. And you kind of get in there and you're kind of getting used to your bearings and like what's what. Like if you need to go to the bathroom, you're gonna miss a segment, but go to the double doors and make yourselves at home. And everybody kind of, and there's the thing that's so fascinating about this is what you hear on the radio. Like that's all there really is to it. There's no team of handlers and people in the background getting it done. These guys have their own setup, their own deal, and everybody has a job function, and they do it very, very well. So I was incredibly impressed to see that the personalities on air, we all know that they serve a job function of sorts, but they go on the air at Rick's cue. They come off the air as soon as he slides the faders, and the Adler does the video portion. He does a good job of switching and adding video content, and kind of keeping the show rolling. And these guys all, I mean, they're just a really, really well-oiled machine. So it's really impressive to me to see an operation doing a lot more with a lot less. And you think about, payroll start eating into you if you're not careful, and you got somebody that does this and somebody that does that. And, I've heard Rick say in interviews, the reason why he runs the board is it's a rhythm, and it's so funny the way he described it. I'm like, it 100% is exactly the way you described it. It's a rhythm. You got to feel it. Sliding the faders in and out, hitting the switches, hitting the slides. It's a different feeling than when you're clicking a button and trying to drag with your mouse and things like that. So it's old school, new technology, new platforms, all the fun stuff, but they still hold, true to themselves and where they came from. And some things simply just don't change. So you see this as you're sitting there and you're watching how they interact. So we were now in the building, sitting down, getting comfortable. I took a selfie with my wife, and I'm like, I really didn't know what to expect even still, but we get in there, and it's however many minutes past the top of the hour, and we're live, and we're welcome to golden ticket seats, and we weren't on the air 30 seconds, and controversy already began to ensue. So when we come back, we'll tell you about the controversy and kind of wrap this up a little bit as I continue to share my field trip to the Rick and Bubba Show. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. It is now, 19 minutes past the top of the hour. And before we go any further, I'd like to remind you to swing by and visit podpage.com/Chris Black. That's podpage.com/Chris Black. And there you'll find everything you'll need to know about the show, how to connect with me online, and even catch different archives and so forth. So, without further ado, we're going to get back to the field trip to Rick and Bubba. So, we've now been in the golden ticket seats a grand total of less than 5 minutes, give or take. And controversy ensues, of course. Why not? So we're doing the introductions, and it's quickly discovered that the grade 8's missing one were the Super 7. And they want to know where our missing 8th person is. And we quickly learned a lot of things that Rick is I'm not going to say he's petty, because that's not really the word, but he was able to kind of want to drive the point across and, hey, if you take it, it's kind of like when you're at the buffet. We don't mind how much you take, just eat what you take. And I think that was kind of the point, given across, and the point he was trying to come across. I think he did that all right. And I tell you what, we quickly got into some very interesting topics. And one of the things that I thought was really cool was you go through and you roll through the segment, and, the segment's over before you know it. especially when you include, video and, get some calls from the audience and, things like that. You can chew up a segment pretty quickly. But one of the things that we found out, kind of behind the scenes, peeking behind the curtain, if you will, was there were a lot of times they would go through and, be done with the segment and boom, they would jump into, kind of continuation of that particular segment. And these guys come up with things off the cuff. They've done this for so long. So there's no real script. There's kind of a framework of what it's supposed to look like, I guess. That's about it. There's none of this, scripted, whatever you want to call it. They got a list of things to choose from, and they'll take it and go from there. So when you see the production of how it works, there's a lot of show prep involved, I'm sure. And I can't imagine what it takes to find things to talk about. I have a hard time filling 45 minutes. I don't know if I could do 5 hours or not, but they do it each and every day. And that's a lot of time to fill. But they do it very well, and it's just a part of who they are. So one of the things I definitely want to talk about and bring to the forefront are the characters on the show are actual people. Now, I know that sounds kind of funny, but that's not it. I mean, these guys are, they kind of get in your mind what you think they are, what they're like. And it's really funny. They're just genuine on the air. They're genuine in person. They're, very nice, people, and that's who they are. So there's none of this, putting on airs and hey, we're back after this. Jesus, and blankety blank and all that fun stuff. Like, that's not it at all. It's legit. I mean, it's when they're on air, and it is, 100% how they portray themselves on air. It's pretty interesting to me that, they're just genuine people in a world where everyone is so quick to do what it takes to put a couple bucks together and kind of keep the gravy train rolling. These guys have an absolute passion for what they do. And I find that to be very, it's been rewarding for them. And as an audience, person, of course, that just, makes me want to follow and support what they're doing that much more because they are genuine. So I had an opportunity to chat with, each member of the show one-on-one throughout different breaks and so forth. And one of the people I was pretty impressed with was Greg Burgess is he kind of came to the show years back. He comes from the power company, and he's kind of the rough around the edges kind of guy, and they've kind of polished him up for radio a little bit, and he's just a regular guy. But we were chatting about where they live. It's the same place my oldest son goes to college, and my son used to work at a large retailer, and he was like, "Yeah, I helped Greg Burgess out today." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." I always thought he said that just needling me, and kind of find out. I was like, "Yeah, probably is." I go by there all the time, and I'm like, "That's pretty cool." Well, then he and my wife get into this conversation about how wide the aisles are at Walmart. And he's like, "You can hardly get through there now the way they got everything set up." And I was like, "Yeah, same here." So they start chit-chatting. You hear the bed music kind of piping up, and, Rick's back at the board. And I said, "Hope you're going to make this man late getting back on the show, getting back to his seat, whatever." But, I mean, it was just they have, they're not, lost when it comes to, being humble. I mean, they go to the grocery store and pick things up just like you and I do. Or, they have the same issues that we do when it comes to, going to a retail establishment. Or, it's just kind of funny. We've got a chance to chat with these guys, and they're real. I mean, a lot of the things they talk about on the air, they just kind of like I do with this podcast. I bring stuff, to you based on my real life and things that have actually happened to me. And some of these are my opinions and things that I've experienced, but for the most part, what you see is what you get from me. And I really enjoy being able to kind of share those stories because I feel like there's somebody out there that's probably been through what I've been through. There's somebody out there who's going through something maybe similar, and they're like, well, that's how he dealt with it. Or, if he hasn't dealt with it, maybe that's something I can, try to, I don't know. But I'm all about, trying to help out where I can. I feel like God's led me to do that. And one of the moments I was the most nervous about was actually the 9 o'clock hour. We took our pictures on the rug, on the carpet right there in the center, I had a chance to speak to Rick, and I told him, I said, today's kind of ironic for me because a year ago today I was recovering from emergency surgery, and I told him about having to have a heart cath and 2 stents put in, and I said, I had 100% blockage on the front. He said, I was a Widowmaker. Yeah, it's like, wow. He was kind of like, you seem so young for that. And I shared that with him, with Rick and Speedy. And that I was nervous sharing that with him, but I wanted them to know why that day was so special. And it was a culmination of being on the Rick and Bubba Show, just sitting there in the golden ticket seats a year after cheating death. And I have made a commitment to myself and my family and those around me that God's given me a second chance. I have made that commitment to God. I don't know what it is God wants me to do, but I've made that commitment to do whatever it is, to work in His name, to advance the kingdom of God. And I feel like I'm surrounding myself with like-minded people. They're going to help me get to that point. So it was really, cool to kind of share that. And as we parted ways that day, he, hey, really want to thank you for sharing that with us. We really appreciate you, sharing that story with us. And of course, I'll follow up, I'm sure, with an email and, kind of keep in touch. I'll definitely try to do the golden ticket seats thing. And that was pretty awesome. But that was just kind of the start of my day. Believe it or not, there was actually more to come. So stick around in the next segment, and I'll share with you how I rounded out Friday. Our trip to Birmingham was quite fruitful, so don't go anywhere. Stick around, and we'll be right back to Chris Black, the podcast. Welcome back, everybody. It is 28 minutes past the top of the hour, and we are here for our fourth and final segment. We're going to round out or close out our field trip to the Rick and Bubba Show. And man, I tell you what, Birmingham is a beautiful area. I don't go nearly often enough. I kind of have a bad attitude about Birmingham. I used to go to Birmingham years ago when I was a tow truck driver. I would take cars up there, and it was always a nightmare. And of course, the streets are gridded out, and you would have First Avenue, First Place, First Parkway. Anyway, it was just a nightmare to get to where you wanted to go. And of course, that was before the advent of GPS. So you had a little map book, and it was crazy. And I saw some crazy things when I was in Birmingham. I went to some of the more unsavory areas, I'm sure, delivering cars and so forth. But Birmingham is it's the right places are pretty nice. So we spent some time with the folks at the Rick and Bubba Show, and the end of the show rolls around, and we shake hands and kiss baby, so to speak, and it's time for us to roll out, and we venture to our next adventure of the day, which was going to the Cheesecake Factory, which I've never been. First thing to note about the Cheesecake Factory is all the things you think you know about the Cheesecake Factory. Like I thought it was just a restaurant. I had no idea how prolific this place actually was. I didn't really know what to expect with the Cheesecake Factory other than the fact that it was a place that a character worked on a television show at one point. And that's kind of where it ended for me. And on the show, they would order random things at the same place. Like one person would get a hamburger and somebody else would get a pepperoni pizza, whatever, and somebody might get a brisket, and this is all at the same table. I mean, it's just kind of nuts. But I had no idea what to expect. So if you've never been, I'm going to take you there, because I feel like it's important to share the craziness that ensues when going to, I mean, if I go to a restaurant, generally speaking, I've got a menu item in my head of what I want and what I'm used to getting. So that's not a big deal. However, going to the Cheesecake Factory, all bets are off. I feel like you could eat there every day for a year and never get the same dish twice. Let's start with the fact that the menu is 27 pages long. You're not given a menu, it's a book. It's a book. The printing budget for this place alone has got to be outrageous. But I digress. So we get there, and I kind of had an idea. I kind of, peeked at the menu before and, figured out what we had going on and kind of made decisions. Now, I have to say, my dietary restrictions are vast and plentiful, but I kind of go by a simple formula when it comes to eating out. I stick with poultry and greens and water. And this kind of opens up the menu in a lot of ways. Hear me out. So when you have those, there's all these things that I'm not supposed to eat, and you stay away from seafood or certain seafood, and other things are higher in cholesterol. And it's kind of like I focus on what I can have versus what I cannot have. So that's kind of how I make it through the day. So, I was perusing the menu, and they've got some, skinny person menu, whatever, which is kind of funny. And I start realizing, like, they actually have certain things like, turkey burgers are just unheard of pretty much everywhere in the real world. But the Cheesecake Factory has a turkey burger. And, of course, I got that with a side salad. Hands down, the best meal I've had in a long time. The turkey burger was phenomenal. It was just like eating a hamburger. It was just amazing. The salad was delicious. I could have eaten salad all day and been happy. But what I didn't know was, cheesecake is literally in the name of this restaurant. Everybody goes for the cheesecake, which is cool. However, when people go to the Cheesecake Factory, they eat a meal and no one had cheesecake at their table. Everybody took their cheesecake to go. I saw it all over the place. Every table that was around us, just constantly, bags with, and you knew there was cheesecake in them. But let me say this about that. The Cheesecake Factory has perfected the ability to transport a slice of cheesecake. 100%. They have a special container that harbors a single slice of cheesecake. And it has a round, whatever you want to call it, to put a bowl or a small dish of toppings or whatever in the same container. But it doesn't in there. No. The container actually closes, and they're modular, so you can stack them. Yeah, you can stack like a bunch of cheesecake, a bunch of slices of cheesecake in a bag, and take it home. Like, it's genius. It's not cheap either. I don't know what the ticket was because I didn't get into all that. But, the no sugar added cheesecake slice that I got, of course, I waited till I got home because I was full from lunch. Absolutely just amazing. Worth every penny. Worth all the time, the drive, all that. It was delicious. That's probably one of the best meals I've had in a long time. And I typically shy away from chain restaurants. I just do. I like the local, the people that are, built from the ground up, however many generations, that kind of stuff. I love a good story with restaurants. That's why I love barbecue joints and things like that. But the Cheesecake Factory was certainly a different experience. I really enjoy the Cheesecake Factory. And I don't know if they're all decorated the same, but ours had a very like Venetian feel but it was really cool. And you could tell somebody spent some time and effort decorating this place and getting it done. But the Cheesecake Factory was awesome. I highly recommend it. We were in Birmingham. It's called the Summit, I believe. It's kind of like a big outdoor mall. Now, I worked in a mall years ago when I worked for Verizon, and I hated the mall. I always felt like I was trapped. I hate outdoor malls even more because it's the same crap just outside. There's no air conditioning. So kind of tragic if you want my honest opinion, but I digress. So we really had fun and enjoyed ourselves when it came to getting the full experience in Birmingham. And I know there's way more in Birmingham than Rick and Bubba. I get it. That's fine. But in Chris Land, like that was it. Like that was the best thing ever. So I really enjoyed, even though I had to get up at an ungodly hour, even though it was, it was challenging, to say the least. But it wasn't hard to get motivated, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. And, sitting here, I was driving to Birmingham. And Speedy, if you hear this, which I doubt you will, if y'all ever develop an adult intern program where I can just come up there and hang out and work on Fridays or whatever, like, I would love that. I would absolutely volunteer. I know it's a strange thing. I get it. But it's just something I enjoyed. And like I said, when you look at how genuine these people are, they go to work every day. And I mean, it's not like they get up and go to work and drag through an 8-hour day. I mean, they're up at ridiculous hours in the morning going live on the air at 5 and 6 a.m., respectively. So it's kind of an amazing thing to see what all they put together. And I learned an awful lot with my experience visiting the show. And the scary part is, I wouldn't shy away from that. It's a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into it, but I learned a lot. I was able to kind of ascertain a few things by asking some questions. And one thing we're eventually going to do, I don't know really how I feel about it, is eventually we want to add a video component to the podcast, or I do. And that's going to make life interesting. But I learned a lot on how to do that, make the content work, and how to make it bring more value to the table. Again, I'm still learning, and remember, I do the show by myself. There's no producers, there's no mix agent in the background. I'm not, it's my sole purpose or my sole job at this point, basically, to entertain the audience. And while it's not easy to do, and I have no idea how it comes off on the back end, I do get some feedback, and so far, so good, I guess. So that's going to wrap us up for the Birmingham portion of my trip. Of course, when I came back from Birmingham, I still had homecoming, and my wife had a ridiculously busy weekend for us. So all in all, it was a phenomenal trip. I had a blast. 10 out of 10. Highly, if you ever get a chance to do it, certainly take advantage of it. It really is well worth it. I'll be trying to get golden ticket seats again. And maybe we'll go to the Cheesecake Factory. So stick around. We'll get things wrapped up, close it out, and we'll put a bow on this, the 18th episode of Chris Black, the podcast. And we're back to say goodbye. Unfortunately, our time together this week has come to an end. We can't do another one of these unless we end this one first. So, as I've done 17 times before, I'm going to close out. Hope you have a safe and happy week. Want to thank you once again for, spending just a little bit of your time with me today. And I learned a lot. Hopefully you learned some things too. And if nothing else, you got a different perspective on things. So, swing by podpage.com/Chris Black. That's podpage.com/Chris Black to see more about the show, grab archived episodes, and also connect with me online. I'm just a regular Joe, or regular Chris. I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you. So let's connect, see what we got going on out there in the real world. But until next week, stay safe, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.